It's killing you. Not all at once. Not in a way that earns sympathy or headlines. It's killing you slowly, quietly, in the places no one claps for. It happens after the phone call where you listened longer than you had energy for. After the relationship conversation, you softened your truth to protect someone else's feelings. After the family gathering, you carried the emotional weight for everyone in the room, then drove home feeling strangely hollow. If you're a woman over 35, you've probably learned to function through this kind of depletion. You show up, you handle it, you keep it moving. But deep down, you can feel it. Something in you is being worn down, not by life itself, but by the constant requirement to absorb what other people refuse to face. You are not weak, you are not broken, and you are not too sensitive. In Jungian language, what you're experiencing is often the cost of living with a highly permeable emotional boundary, what Jung might recognize as a form of unconscious participation with the moods, needs, and shadows of others. You walk into a room, and your body registers what people are hiding. You hear what is not being said. You sense the tension behind the smile, the resentment behind the joke, the grief behind the competent voice. That level of perception is not a flaw. It is a powerful psychological function. But without consciousness, it becomes a burden. You start carrying feelings that are not yours, fixing crises that are not yours, apologizing for energy you didn't create. Jung warned that when we do not recognize the shadow, we do not eliminate it. We simply relocate it. And sensitive women often become the safest place for other people's darkness to land. The needy friend who always has an emergency, the partner who calls your empathy love while giving you crumbs, the family member who makes guilt feel like loyalty. None of them has to be intentionally cruel for the pattern to be destructive, because the real danger is not their behavior alone. The real danger is the role your psyche learned to play, the persona of the good woman who stays calm, stays kind, stays available. Over time, that persona becomes a prison, and your nervous system pays the price. If you've been wondering why rest doesn't fully restore you, why certain people leave you foggy and heavy, why you feel guilty for needing space, here's the haunting truth. Your empathy may have been turned into a doorway, and some people have learned to walk through it without ever asking permission. This is where protection begins, not with becoming colder, but with becoming conscious. Near the end of this journey, we'll talk about reverse psychology, not as manipulation, but as a shield. It is the practice of pulling your energy back instead of explaining, proving, or overgiving. Less reaction, less access, more silence. You stop feeding dynamics that survive on your emotional labor, and you let people reveal themselves in the space you no longer fill. In Jung's terms, this is individuation in motion, the moment you choose your inner truth over the role you were trained to perform. And that is how empathy stops killing you and becomes what it was always meant to be, a gift you control, not a resource others consume. It rarely begins with cruelty. It begins with a compliment. You're the only one I can talk to. You always understand. I feel safe with you. For a woman who has spent decades being the steady one, this sounds like a connection. It sounds like being needed. It even feels like love. But notice what follows. The calls last longer. The stories grow heavier. The problems never resolve. They only recycle. You start to feel a subtle tightening in your chest when their name appears on your phone, yet you still answer. You do not want to be the person who walks away from someone in pain. You tell yourself they are just going through a phase. You can handle it. Until one day, you realize you are living with a quiet dread that has no clear cause. Not fear of them, exactly, but fear of what it costs you every time you let them in. Look at how this plays out at work. There is often someone who knows how to release tension in a room without ever being held responsible for it. They smile, they vent, they ask for your perspective, and then they leave lighter while you sit with the emotional residue. It might be the coworker who always has a crisis, or the manager who praises your reliability and quietly adds more to your load because you never push back. Over time, you become the emotional shock absorber for the workplace, the calm one, the reasonable one, the one who keeps everything running smoothly. No one calls it exploitation because it looks like trust. But your body tells a different story. Your shoulders tighten before meetings, your stomach knots. You go home unable to relax because you are still carrying on conversations that should have ended hours ago. Family dynamics often cut even deeper. Roles were assigned long before you had language for boundaries. The sibling who always needs support but disappears when you need anything back. The parent who uses guilt like gravity, pulling you into problems that are not yours to solve. The grown child who confuses your love with unlimited access. You become the mediator, the translator, the emotional anchor for everyone else. And somehow, despite doing the most, you are the one who feels depleted and ashamed. Carl Jung would say this is not a coincidence. It is the unconscious repeating a familiar pattern. Many empathic women learned early that safety came from reading the room, anticipating moods, and absorbing tension before it exploded. That skill once protected you, but without awareness, it becomes a prison. Through a Jungian lens, what you are experiencing is shadow projection in everyday life. People are not always intentionally harmful. Often they cannot tolerate their own anger, grief, or responsibility, so their unconscious mind looks for somewhere else to place it. Because you are perceptive and compassionate, you become the easiest container. Your empathy becomes the doorway through which others escape their inner work. You apologize for their outbursts. You rationalize their behavior. You carry emotional debt that was never yours to pay. If this feels uncomfortably familiar, it is because it is not just a story. It is your life reflected back to you. The danger is not that you care. The danger is that you were taught caring means absorbing. And until that belief is questioned, empathy stops being a gift and quietly turns into a life sentence. Somewhere along the way, many women were taught a quiet equation. Exhaustion equals love. If you can endure, you are loyal. If you can swallow your needs, you are mature. If you can keep the peace, you are good. By midlife, this is no longer an idea you believe. It is a reflex your body performs before your mind even votes. You soften your voice the moment someone gets defensive. You edit your truth into something easier to hear. You rehearse a whole courtroom of explanations before you set one simple boundary, as if silence might trigger punishment. You can see it in small, ordinary scenes that don't look dramatic enough to call a problem. A woman sitting in her car outside the store, hands on the steering wheel, taking one steady breath before going home, because she knows the moment she walks in, she will be emotionally recruited. A woman at dinner smiles politely while she gets talked over, telling herself it's not worth the fight, then lying awake later with a tight jaw and a mind that won't shut off. A woman is canceling plans again because her mother is having a hard day, even though her mother has been having a hard day for 20 years. These moments don't look like trauma. They look dependable. But inside, they feel like disappearing 1 inch at a time. Jung would say this is not just personal, it is archetypal. Women are often trained to become the emotional infrastructure of everyone else's lives, the one who anticipates moods, smooths tension, and holds the household together. And when a role becomes sacred, it becomes a mask. Jung called it the persona, the social face we wear to belong, to be approved of, to stay safe in the tribe. For many women, the persona is the good woman, reasonable, generous, understanding, endlessly available. The world rewards that mask. It calls you strong. It calls you caring. It calls you the glue. But the mask has a price, and it is paid in the quiet. Because every persona casts a shadow. The shadow of the good woman is not evil. It is the anger you were never allowed to express, the needs you were taught to downplay, the instincts you learned to distrust. Jung warned that what is pushed into the shadow does not vanish. It leaks. It leaks as resentment you feel ashamed of. It leaks as tears that arrive out of nowhere. It leaks as numbness that scares you because you used to feel everything. Many women don't stay too long because they are foolish. They stay because leaving feels like becoming the villain in someone else's story, and guilt is the chain that keeps the mask locked in place. If I say no, I'm selfish. If I pull back, I'm cruel. If I stop explaining, I'm cold. But what if that guilt isn't your conscience at all? What if it's conditioning? A learned alarm system meant to keep you loyal to roles that benefit everyone except you. Jung would call it a complex, an unconscious knot of old beliefs and emotional memory that activates the moment you try to change. This is why women stay too long. Not because love is real, but because fear is loud. Fear of judgment, fear of being misunderstood, fear of losing connection by telling the truth. But once you see the mask for what it is, something shifts. You stop calling it your personality, you start calling it a pattern, and patterns can be healed. Your body is not being dramatic, it is being honest. Long before your mind can say, "This is too much," your nervous system says it for you. It tightens your throat right as you're about to agree to something you don't want. It sends a headache blooming after you leave a certain person. It drops a wave of exhaustion over you when a text thread lights up, and you already know you're about to be pulled into someone else's storm. And if you've spent years being the steady ground for everyone around you, you may have trained yourself to override these signals. You call it stress, you call it hormones, you call it getting older. But the truth is quieter and more unsettling. Empathy without boundaries does not just make you tired, it slowly erodes your sense of safety inside your own body. You see it in the small survival habits that start to feel normal. Keeping your phone on silent, not because you're uncaring, but because your heart races when it buzzes. Waking at 3 a.m., replaying a conversation, rewriting what you should have said, even though nothing big happened. Smiling through a family gathering, then spending the next day on the couch as if you ran a marathon. Or noticing something even stranger. You used to feel warm and expressive, and now you feel numb, like your emotions have moved behind glass. That numbness is not coldness, it's protection. Your system has learned that feeling everything for everyone is not sustainable. So it does what any intelligent system does under overload. It shuts down what it can no longer carry. From a Jungian perspective, this is not merely physical. Jung understood the psyche and body as one conversation. When the ego insists on living a life that contradicts the deeper self, the conflict does not stay in your thoughts, it becomes somatic. The self, that inner center of wholeness, begins to protest. The body becomes the messenger when the soul has been ignored for too long. So your symptoms may not be random. They may be guidance, a quiet alarm that whispers, "Stop abandoning yourself." This is why fatigue can feel bone deep even after a full night's sleep, why your shoulders stay braced even on good days. Why do you feel on edge in calm rooms, scanning faces and tones the way you once scanned for danger? Many women develop this survival sensitivity early, in homes where peace depended on predicting the atmosphere. You learn to read the room, manage reactions, and keep everyone okay. Your adult life may look different now, but your nervous system still lives by those old rules, as if love requires vigilance. Here's the reframe that changes everything. These symptoms are not proof you're failing. They are proof that your system is wise. Your body is not punishing you. It is drawing a line that your voice has not learned to draw yet. And once you see that, a new question appears, gentle but powerful. What if healing is not more explaining, more effort, more emotional labor, but less? Less access, less rescuing, less participation in dynamics that cost you your health. In the next part, we'll talk about how that shift begins, not with anger, but with a quieter kind of strength, the kind that protects you. There comes a day when you stop trying to be understood and start choosing peace. It rarely looks dramatic. It looks like a pause you have never allowed yourself before, a breath you take instead of rushing to fix, a message you do not answer right away. A decision to step out of the familiar loop and let silence do what your explanations never could. You do not announce it. You do not justify it. You simply do less. And in that small shift, people begin to show you who they really are. This is where reverse psychology becomes protection, not a trick. For years, you tried the honest way. You explained your feelings. You offered clarity. You tried to be fair. But with certain people, your explanations were not received as truth. They were received as access. Every sentence became something to debate, twist, or use to pull you back into the caretaker role. So the move is not louder. It is quieter. Less reacting, less explaining, less emotional labor. You withdraw just enough to stop feeding the pattern. You feel it immediately at work. The coworker who always just needs 5 minutes shows up with the same crisis. In the past, you listened, coached, carried it home in your chest. This time, you smile softly and say, "I hope it works out," then turn back to what you were doing. No therapy session, no fixing, just a closed door. And watch the reaction. A healthy person respects it. An unhealthy dynamic flares. They get sharper, needier, more urgent. That's not you doing something wrong. That's you removing the supply. Then there's family, where the script is older and the guilt runs deeper. The same weekly call, the same drama, the same pull on your heart. You used to pick up fast, soothe faster, and hang up feeling drained and oddly sick. This time, you let it go to voicemail, or you reply with one calm sentence instead of a long explanation. You do not defend your boundary, you live inside it. And suddenly you see the truth. Some people do not miss you. They miss the role you played. They miss the version of you who made their emotions easier to avoid. This is the emotional transformation Jung pointed to. When you stop wearing the good woman mask, the people who benefited from it may protest. They call you different, cold, selfish. But what is really happening is simpler. You are no longer abandoning yourself to keep the room comfortable. You are learning you can care without carrying. You can love without dissolving. And here is the quiet miracle. The right people do not punish you when you pull back. They adjust. They stay steady. They respect your no without demanding a courtroom explanation. The wrong people reveal themselves quickly. So if you have been waiting for permission, let this be it. Pull back gently, not to manipulate, to see. Because once you see, you can finally trust yourself. You don't lose love when you pull back. You lose the illusion that love was supposed to cost you your peace. That is the shift that changes everything. A healed empath does not become colder. She becomes clearer. She stops mistaking anxiety for intuition, guilt for morality, and exhaustion for devotion. She still feels deeply, but she no longer hands her heart to anyone who treats it like a public resource. This is what many women discover in midlife, sometimes after one too many sleepless nights, one too many conversations that left them shaking, one too many family gatherings where they smiled and then cried in the bathroom afterward. The awakening does not always come with fireworks. Often it comes with a quiet sentence inside you that finally sounds like truth. I cannot keep paying for connection with my nervous system. And in that moment, something ancient in you relaxes. Your body exhales. Your soul stops begging you to listen. In Jung's terms, this is the beginning of wholeness. When you stop living as a persona, the good woman, the fixer, the peacemaker, and start living as a whole human being with limits, needs, and standards, the shadow you once feared, your anger, your firmness, your ability to disappoint people, becomes integrated. It no longer leaks out as resentment or numbness. It becomes discernment. It becomes a clean no. It becomes the kind of silence that protects you. Your empathy returns to its rightful place, not as a leash others pull, but as a gift you choose when to offer. And here is the most liberating truth. Pulling back does not cost love. It removes exploitation. If someone only stays when you are overgiving, they were never in love with you. They were in love with your access. If someone only feels close to you when you are available on demand, they were not building intimacy. They were building dependency. When you stop feeding that pattern, it may feel like a loss at first, but what you are really losing is dead. Wait. What remains is lighter, truer, safer. It is the kind of connection that does not require you to shrink, explain, or bleed quietly. So let this be your marker, your turning point. The moment you stop apologizing for having boundaries, the moment you stop translating your no into a speech, the moment you stop treating your empathy like something you owe. Choose one simple vow for the next 7 days. No instant replies under pressure, no long explanations, no returning to the cycle of apologizing to keep the peace. When guilt shows up, do not obey it. Observe it, let it pass. And remind yourself, guilt is often just the old script begging to be repeated. You are not becoming less loving. You are becoming impossible to misuse. That is not hardness, that is health. And if this message found you at the exact moment you needed it, take it as a sign that your deeper self is ready to protect your energy without apology, ready to step forward with clarity, not guilt. Because when you stop abandoning yourself, you do not lose love, you win your life back.
If this touched something sacred inside you, don't let it fade into silence. Like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your presence here is not just support, it's resonance. And if you feel moved to give back, your donation becomes a quiet but powerful gesture that helps keep this light alive for others still walking in the dark.